nervous system. So, an autonomic nervous system, it helps you to respond involuntarily so. A somatic nervous system helps you to respond voluntarily so. Yeah. Are we fine? Right. So now, when you are responding involuntarily so, your body can respond in two ways, or will respond in two ways. Let's say a pit bull is running towards you, or you just saw a snake. Your body will respond in two ways. The first way is called the sympathetic response, and the second way is called the parasympathetic response. Okay, let me make this example. Let's say you are called. Hey, how are you? Please come and visit me. Right, you take your pumps, you wear your pumps, you go straight to where you are directed. And all of a sudden there's a passage. And that person is standing that way. And the dog comes running after you. What will happen? You see it's not in a good mood. What will happen to you? Like in your at that moment, what will happen? What will happen? You turn back and run. Okay, but before you turn, at the moment where you see the dog coming towards you, you are still standing, you are still thinking. What happens to your body? You get scared. Okay, what happens to you when you get scared? Number one. Good. The heartbeat increased. See, what will happen is called the sympathetic response. Sympathetic response. Number one, your heartbeat will increase. What else? What else? You start crying. Yeah, typical of the kid.
Probably start sweating.
Now, good. You start sweating. Number one, you said heart rate increases. Number two, you start sweating, isn't it? The sweat glands becomes active. The sweat glands becomes active. The blood pressure increases. Glycogen is converted into glucose so that you can have energy to either fight or flight. That's a sympathetic response. Are we together? Right. But now, when that situation has, subsided, what will happen is that your body will go back to normal, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, that is called the parasympathetic response. Okay, I've taught you now it's your turn. Remember I said to you, you listen, you speak, and then you do what? You write down. Alright. Now we said what helps you to respond to the environment. Class, I'm not hearing you. What helps you to respond?
Nervous system.
Oh, okay, which means you know this one. So the nervous system is divided into how many parts? It's the
Central nervous system.
And the
Peripheral nervous system.
good. Yeah. So the central nervous system is divided into how many parts? It's the
Brain
and the
spinal cord.
Spinal cord. All right. Let's start afresh. What helps you to respond to the environment?
The nervous system.
Good. The nervous system is divided into how many parts? Two parts. It's the
Central nervous system.
and the
Peripheral nervous system.
good. Right. So the central nervous system is divided into how many parts?
Two.
It's the
Brain and the spinal cord.
yeah. Right now, peripheral nervous system. So we said it is made up of 12 pairs of cranial nerves. In other words, those are nerves that move from the brain to every part of the body. Nah? And the one pairs of
Spinal nerves.
Alright, which means you know this one. What helps you to respond?
Nervous system.
nervous system is divided into how many parts? Two parts. It's the
Central nervous system
and the
peripheral nervous system.
right. So the central nervous system is divided into how many parts?
Two parts.
It's the
Brain and the spinal cord.
hair. Right. So the PNS, peripheral nervous system, is made up of what? 12 pairs of
Cranial nerves.
and
31 pairs of spinal nerves.
That's too intelligent for my liking. I'm telling you right now. See, I can spot a distinction when I see one. Right. So now, the peripheral nervous system is divided into how many parts? Two parts. It's the what? Autonomic nervous system and
Somatic nervous system.
which one helps you to respond voluntarily so?
Somatic nervous system.
Which one helps you to respond involuntarily so?
Autonomic
Autonomic?
nervous system.
Yeah. Not automatic. Autonomic. Autonomic. Yes. Are you asking something? Okay, no problem. Right. So when you are responding using the autonomic nervous system, there are two things that will happen to your body, isn't it? The first one is called the sympathetic response. The second one is called the parasympathetic response. So the sympathetic response is the one that prepares your body for emergency. It prepares you for emergency. It prepares you to either fight or flight. And then the parasympathetic response, it's the one that helps you to return the body back to normal. Let me erase this. Class, are you ready for me?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right. Now, what helps you to respond to the environment?
The nervous system.
Books closed there?
Yes.
Yeah. It's the
Nervous system.
So the nervous system is divided into how many parts?
Two parts.
The first one is the
Central nervous
the
system.
second one is the
Peripheral nervous system.
so the central nervous system is divided into how many parts?
Two parts.
It's the brain.
Spinal cord.
Hey, thank you so much. And then the peripheral nervous system is made up of what?
12 pairs of cranial nerves.
Good 12 pairs of cranial nerves and
31 pairs of spinal
31
nerves.
pairs of
Spinal nerves.
spinal nerves. But it's also divided into parts, isn't it?
Yes.
How many parts? Two parts. The first part is called the
Autonomic.
yeah?
Autonomic.
Autonomic. Just like that. Autonomic. It's the autonomic nervous
System.
and the somatic
Nervous system.
nervous system. Right, between the autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system, which one helps you to respond involuntarily so?
Autonomic nervous system.
Autonomic nervous system. So this one is for involuntary response. This one is for
Voluntary response.
so you are responding voluntarily so. So if Mr. Saidi can say to me, Mr. Mlelose, please come here, sir. And I just go to him. Which system did I use to respond to him? Somatic nerves, because I responded voluntarily so. If, for example, another saying, I touch a hot stove and all of a sudden I remove my hand, which system did I use? Autonomic nervous system, isn't it?
Yes.
Because I responded involuntarily so, unconsciously so. Are we together? Right. So when you are responding involuntarily so using the autonomic nervous system, what's the first thing that will happen to your body? It's called the what? Sympathetic response. And then afterward, what will happen? Parasympathetic response. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So if in an exam they say to you, explain the peripheral nervous system, they just tell them the peripheral nervous system is made up of 12 cranial nerves, 31 pairs of spinal nerves. It's divided into two There's an autonomic. The autonomic is responsible for involuntary response. This one is responsible for voluntary response. Then when you are responding involuntarily, this is what will happen to your body, and afterward, I will find. Yeah. Don't forget it. We are coming back. Right. Now let's talk about the brain and the spinal cord. Let's talk about how does the brain help you to respond? How does the brain? Right. We erase. Now the brain. The brain. The brain. So the brain is protected. It's the most important, very important. In fact, it's very important. Right? So it must be protected. So the brain is protected by two things. There's a part of the skull that covers the brain. It's called the cranium. So the brain is protected by the cranium. Right? And the meninges, the membranes that are found underneath the cranium, meninges. Are we together? The brain is protected by the cranium and the meninges. I love that boy. Already he has grasped the way I'm teaching. Everything that I put on the board, you must know it. Yeah? Cranium and meninges. Right. So here's the brain. A brain looks like this. Obviously, this is not creative art, isn't it? So, yeah, something like this. Right. Here's the brain. You need to know how to label and give function. Once you know how to label and give function, I'm done. I'm done. Right. So we have A. A is the cerebrum. It's a cerebrum. Cerebrum. Right. So this part, huge part of the brain, is called the cerebrum. Are we together? And then this one that is found here is called the cerebellum. Cerebellum. Right? And this part, okay, this part, see, is called the medulla oblongata. Right? But beneath the medulla oblongata, there's a spinal cord, right? Right. And then we are familiar with this one, it's called the pituitary gland, right? Yeah. Or hypophysis, right? When we're talking about menstruation, and yeah, the pituitary gland from day 1 up until day number 7, the pituitary gland will secrete FSH. FSH will stimulate. You remember it, isn't it? Yes. Right. So this is the pituitary gland or hypophysis. But we won't talk about it much. We'll talk about it when we talk about the endocrine system. But it secretes various hormones: FSH, LH, GH, TSH, prolactin. Right. And then you have what you call the hypothalamus. Right. Okay, let me just write it for the sake. The pituitary gland. Right. So this one is called the hypothalamus. And then we are going to have a corpus callosum. Not corpus luteum. Corpus callosum. Callosum. Yeah. Sort of like collide. Right. But now you must know how to label this by heart. Right. So what is this?
Cerebrum.
What is this?
Cerebellum.
Cerebellum. A.
Cerebrum.
B.
Cerebellum.
And then C.
Medulla oblongata.
Okay, which means you know it's A.
Cerebrum.
B.
Cerebellum.
C.
Medulla oblongata.
Good. Medulla oblongata. And then this one, let me say D. Pituitary gland. Your teacher, did your teacher say pituitary gland or hypophysis?
Pituitary gland.
Pituitary gland, okay, let's use that one. Pituitary gland. Right. And then E? Hypothalamus. A.
Cerebellum.
B.
Cerebellum.
C.
Medulla oblongata.
D.
Pituitary gland.
E.
Hypothalamus.
Good. And then this one?
Corpus callosum.
Corpus callosum. Okay. Okay. Right. Yeah. Please, people, say it. Say it. Yeah. See, in an exam, when you are writing, you have 4 options. If a question asks you about the brain, if you speak, you listen, then you write down, you'll remember what you've heard. If you can't remember what you've heard, you'll remember what you've spoken. If you can't remember what you've spoken, you'll remember what you've written down. That's why I'm saying speak. Speak it. Yeah. That's the only way to learn in my class. So I am glad that you are adjusting to it. Right. So A.
Cerebellum.
B.
Cerebellum.
C.
Medulla oblongata.
D.
Pituitary gland.
E.
Hypothalamus.
F.
Corpus callosum.
I want someone in this class who say I can label the entire brain now. It can't be 3 hands when all of us are saying. You can do it this one. I want you, my brother. Yeah, this one believes in other people. All right, let's hear. Yes? Don't help me. Yeah, so listen. The one that you remember, you say. The one that you can't remember, say pass. Ne? Right. A. Callosum. Corpus callosum. There is no that one. Corpus. Okay, so this one is a medulla oblongata. What is it? Okay.
Medulla oblongata.
A.
Cerebellum.
What's your name, sir? Yes. A.
Cerebellum. Medulla oblongata. Pituitary gland.
It's a this one. My friend, we are not moving on until you know it. Right. So this one is called the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus. And it can be you. It can be you. Right. A.
Cerebellum.
Medulla oblongata. Pituitary gland. Hypothalamus. And then corpus callosum.
Good. Clap for me. Everybody must be able to live with the brain. Right there at the corner. Yes. A. Did you open a book? No. A. Yeah, doesn't matter. Say it. It's fine. It's fine. I want that one. This one. Yeah, good. Yeah, I don't expect you to get pronunciations now because it's the first time learning it, isn't it? But as time goes on, you get familiar with the words and then you'll be fine. Right. So yes, this is the cerebrum, cerebellum, and then this one is medulla oblongata. Right, and then this one is a pituitary gland. Yeah, we're familiar with it. And then this one is a hypothalamus. And then this one, it's the corpus callosum.
Yeah.
For the last time, everybody. A,
Cerebrum.
B,
Cerebellum.
C,
Medulla oblongata.
D,
Pituitary gland.
E,
Hypothalamus.
F.
Corpus callosum.
Good. Right now we come to functions. Ne? Right. Functions. You must know all the functions, not tomorrow. Not study them when you get time now. Right. So now, the cerebrum has 3 functions. The first function is that it controls high thought processes. It controls high thought processes. In other words, that's where your wisdom and intellectual capacity is. That's where you remember things. That's where you understand things. That's where you think. That's where you reason. That's what you use. So when someone says use your brain, it's actually saying use your cerebrum. Because cerebrum is the one that is helping you to think. Yeah. It houses your wisdom and your intellectual capacity. Cerebrum. When you are trying to create something, when you are trying to remember in medicine, when you are studying life sciences, all your memory, all your remembering is found here in the cerebrum. It's stored in the cerebrum. So we say it controls high thought processes. It controls high thought processes. That's what you use to think. At your one. Today you just said good night at 6:30. Why? And then it becomes offline. No, I'm going. That's what you are using. What? Cerebrum. Are we together? Yeah. It's responsible for high thought processes. Creating something, inventing something, coming up with an idea, remembering the information that you were told long ago, reading a book, playing chess. You are using your cerebrum. It controls high thought processes. It's a high thought. I can still remember my first day at kindergarten. I promise you, I remember. I remember what happened. I can't tell you how, it's embarrassing. But I was crying all the way. Yeah. Everyone was crying. But I still remember even the friends that were there. I can still remember what happened last year on the 21st of December. I remember it. Yeah. Why? Because of I can still remember even the people that were. I remember the place, the people, the music, everything. Why? Because of the what? The cerebrum. Are we together? Okay, let's see if your cerebrum is working. Now, what helps you to respond to the environment?
Nervous system.
Nervous system is divided into how many parts?
2 parts.
It's the
Central nervous system.
and the
Peripheral nervous system.
so this one is divided into how many parts?
2 parts.
It's the
Brain
and the
spinal cord.
this one
21 pairs of cranial.
1 pair and
31 pairs of spinal nerves.
it's divided into how many parts?
2 parts.
It's the
Autonomic
and the
nervous system.
so this one is divided into 2. It's 2. Are you isn't it? It's the sympathetic and the which means the cerebrum is working fine. Yes? Right. Now, high thought processes, number 1. Number 2, it controls voluntary actions. In other words, it tells you walk, talk, sit down, stand up, sleep, do this, it controls voluntary actions, controls voluntary actions. So if she stands up and starts walking out of the class, which part of the brain did she use?
The cerebrum.
It's a cerebrum, because it's a voluntary response. Alright, my sister. A time will come where I will say, write everything I taught you now. Write it. And you must write it down. That's how you process. That's how you learn life sciences. You move from the not knowing to the knowing. Once you've written it down, I promise you, you'll never forget it. Type shit. Right? So it controls voluntary actions. Voluntary actions. Eat. Open the fridge. Sit down. Watch television. Change the channel. Every voluntary action is controlled by the cerebrum. Number 3, it interprets sensations from sense organs. It receives and interprets sensations from sense organs. It interprets sensation. Remember your 5 senses. Touch it. Don't lose. You are here. Right. So we have 5 senses. Sense of touch, sense of taste, sense of smell, sense of sight, sense of hearing. Isn't it? Yeah. We have 5 senses. The sense of touch, the sense of taste, the sense of smell, the sense of sight, see, the sense of hearing. So, if you just walk in and all of a sudden you smell something, let me leave that one a bit. Let's say you are studying and it's 12 midnight, all of a sudden there's no shade. Do you know that you can close your eyes and tell that, okay, this is a paper, yes. This is a head, this is sanitizer, it's a desk, which help you to interpret that sense of touch. It's a cerebrum. It's a cerebrum. It receives, tells you, okay, this one, I remember it. It's a sanitizer. You go on a picnic with Bay. Let's go to Botanical Garden. You drive. Sit there near the waterfall. Oh yes. And then Babe say, okay, please close your eyes and open your mouth. Right, so you close your eyes and then you open your mouth and then he takes chicken, then stuffed chicken in your mouth. Right. Do you know that you can tell that, okay, fine, I'm tasting Nando's. No, it's not Nando's. It's Pandarotis. No, it's not. No. It's, yeah. You can taste without even you seeing it. What interpreted that? The cerebral sense of taste. Do you know that you can go overseas and as you are walking, all of a sudden, someone calls you. Without you seeing them, can tell that this voice is my friend's voice, Naraja. What interpreted that sense of hearing? Cerebral. In fact, the mere fact that you can see what's this? Yeah, it's a cerebral. That helps to interpret that this is a whiteboard, sense of sight. This is a whiteboard, this is a car. This is a... If you said this is a bulb, I would say no, you don't have tools. You don't have a cerebral. Because you can't interpret this is a whiteboard. So it interprets what? Sensations. Are we together? Yes, Mr.
Now say that you color blind, but you got that like you roll with your eyes. What happens there?
Okay, that's a different story. When you're colorblind, you can't differentiate between mostly yellow and green. Yeah, you can't differentiate. Yeah, between colors. You can still see other things like, okay, fine, this is a t-shirt, but now you can't see if it's yellow or it's green. Because as you are saying, you are what? Colorblind. Are we fine? Right, okay. Controls what? Number 1? High thought processes. Does what? Controls high thought processes. Yeah. Don't write it, don't even try it. Number 1, it does what?
Controls high thought
processes. That's
You didn't write the third one.
okay, let me write the third one. Right, interpret sensations. Like interprets sensations. It tells you what is smelling now. It's a rose. No, it's a chocolate. No, it's coffee. No, it interprets that smells. It interprets the sound. Like, no, this is a horn of a car. No, it's a dog barking. This is a cat. This is a, yeah, it interprets sensations. Right? And then also, yeah. Right, so number one, you said, say?
Controls higher processes.
It does what?
Controls higher processes.
Number two, it does what?
Controls voluntary actions.
Yeah. Controls voluntary. And then number three, it does what?
Interprets sensations.
Interprets sensations. Functions of the cerebrum.
Controls higher processes.
It controls
Higher processes.
number two.
Controls voluntary actions.
Number three.
Interprets sensations.
Hey, I love this class. Alright, so now we come to the cerebellum. Your brain must be working like this. A.
Cerebellum.
B.
Medulla oblongata. Pituitary gland. Hypothalamus. Corpus luteum.
Now, two functions here. Two functions. Right. The first function is that it coordinates voluntary actions. This one controls voluntary actions. This one coordinates voluntary action. In other words, to coordinate is to make sure that things are working properly or are working according to order or they are working according to how they're supposed to work. That is to coordinate. Are we together?
Yes.
Right. So the first one, it coordinates. In other words, when the cerebrum tells you to walk, the cerebellum tells you how to walk. Right foot, left, right, left. This is coordination. Are we together? When the cerebrum tells you talk, the cerebellum tells you how to talk. That's why I believe that in a child, what develops first is the cerebrum. And the cerebellum develops later. Because the cerebrum will tell the child, hey, someone is talking to you, talk back, talk back. And the child, because the child does not know yet how to talk, will say blah, 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 blah. Because the cerebellum is not yet developed. That's my belief. Right? The cerebrum can tell a child, hey, walk. And the child will stand like this and you see that this child wants to walk. But the cerebellum is not yet developed to teach the child how to walk. Are you understanding? So the function of the cerebellum is to coordinate voluntary actions. Number one, so it coordinates voluntary action. Right? Then number two, it maintains balance and equilibrium. It maintains balance. It maintains balance. It maintains balance. Their function is to maintain balance. That even when you're walking and you are tripping over something, then your balance is maintained. It helps you to maintain the balance. Are we together? It maintains balance. Number one, it does what? Coordinates voluntary actions. Number two, it does what? It maintains balance. Okay. Right. A.
Control cerebellum.
Cerebrum. It does what?
Controls higher processes.
Number two.
Controls voluntary action.
Number three.
Interprets sensations.
Good. Right. And then what is this?
Cerebellum.
Cerebellum. Number one, it does what?
Coordinates voluntary action.
Coordinates voluntary action. Number two, it does what?
Maintains balance.
Maintains balance. Right. Number one, it does what? Cerebrum does what?
Controls higher processes.
Number two.
Controls voluntary actions.
Number three.
Interprets sensations.
And then this one, number one. Cerebellum, it does what?
Coordinates voluntary actions.
Number two, it does what?
Maintains balance.
Maintains balance. Maintains balance. That when you are walking and then you miss a step, then you are able to restore balance. Are we together? Right, and then we have the medulla oblongata. Two functions also. Right? So the medulla oblongata is the most important part of the brain. It's responsible for your life. Right? So the function of the medulla oblongata, it controls involuntary actions such as breathing and heartbeat. Yeah. So if it stops working, then your heart stops working. It cannot pump blood anymore. Then you stop breathing. So the medulla oblongata, it controls heartbeats and breathing. It does what? It controls heartbeats and breathing. Right, let's stop there. I'll talk about the other function. Right, and then we have the cell, the hypothalamus, and then you're going to relax a bit and then think about what you've learned so far. Right, we have the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus, spiritual gland, I'm not going to talk about it. Ne? Yeah, it controls various hormones. Yeah, we'll talk about it in the endocrine system. Just know it controls various hormones. It secretes ADH, FSH, what? Not ADH, ADH also. Yeah, it does because it's released by it. Alright, now hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is the one that helps you to respond internally. These other ones, they help you to respond externally, isn't it? So the hypothalamus, it's a control center for hunger, thirst, sleep, body temperature, and emotions. It tells you are hungry now. It tells you are thirsty now, go drink water. So when you feel that you are hungry, it's because the hypothalamus is the one that tells you that there's nothing in your stomach anymore. When you feel that you are thirsty, it's the hypothalamus that tells you that the water level is below normal in your body. Yeah, it's a control center for hunger, thirst, sleep, body temperature, and emotions. Tells you, be angry, be sad, be happy, be excited, cry, laugh. It's a control center for emotions. So even a person, you love a person by a hypothalamus, not the heart. So when you love a person, you love the person with your entire hypothalamus. Because it's a control center for emotions. Love is an emotion. When you hate someone, you are hating someone with a hypothalamus. Please don't hate people. Yeah? Yes.
So if hypothalamus controls the emotion, so
yes.
What do you get a sharp feeling in the heart?
We'll talk about that one later on. Right, a sharp feeling in your, or you say that if you love someone, then there's a sharp feeling in your heart.
It's like when you hit your toe. Why do you use eyes to respond? It's the hypothalamus will send. Remember, heart is a muscle. Yes. So it's like an effector. You can't get the feelings unless there is an effector to bring about the effect. You understand? So the heart is an effector. So however much is being controlled there, it sends the impulse to the heart. And then you think that, it's the heart which is being affected. Can't it? It's being controlled by what?
Let me explain what Mr. Said is saying. Ne? Right, so let's say you open up your cell phone, ne? And then you find a text that says, it's not me. It's you. Right, so now, the sensory neuron will take that impulse from the eyes, ne? To the hypothalamus. Isn't it? Yes. Then the hypothalamus will interpret that, isn't it? Generate a response, then take that response to the heart. Yes. And you feel the heart muscles contracting. And you feel like, you know what? Alright, may that message never find you. May that text never locate you. The one that says it's not you, it's me. let's drop it. Hey, okay, sharp. Right. This one, it controls heartbeat and breathing. Then this one, it's a control center for? It's a control center for? Hunger, thirst, sleep, body temperature, emotions. How should I say emotions? I'll say Emotions, ne? Right, it's a control center for
Hunger, thirst, sleep, body temperature, emotions.
emotions. Again, function of the hypothalamus, it's a control center for
Hunger, thirst, sleep, body temperature, emotions.
Let me scaffold you for the last time. It's a control center for
Hunger, thirst, sleep, body temperature, and emotions.
again, a control center for
Hunger, thirst, sleep, body temperature, and emotions.
hey, nah. Why would you study when you know it? Study geography. This one you must know it. Right. Yes.
So now like the girls have they move to
Sorry?
the girls they move to defense or like
What? Mutsi. Nah. Mood swings. What's a mood? Emotion. Because I can just come in and then look at you like this and then say, this has what? Has moods. Because I'm angry. One minute I'm happy, 1 minute I have mood swings. Yeah, because a mood is an emotion. Yeah. Right, and then we have the corpus callosum. Right, so listen class, your brain is divided into two. There's a left hemisphere and there's a right hemisphere, right? So the left hemisphere controls the right side of your body. Then the left hemisphere controls the left one controls the right one. Then the right one controls the left one. And are we together? Right? For you to be able, can you see? These two parts are controlled by different hemispheres of the brain.
Yes.
For me to be able to move like this, there must be communication between the two hemispheres. Yes. Right. So the function of the corpus callosum is to connect the left and the right hemisphere of the cerebrum and allows them to communicate. It connects the left and the right hemisphere of the cerebrum and allows them to communicate. Connects. Right. Remember I said we have the brain is divided into two, isn't it?
Yes.
You have the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. So the function of the corpus callosum is to connect the left and the right hemisphere of the cerebrum and allows them to communicate. In other words, when I'm walking, if this right foot is up, then the cerebrum, the left hemisphere must communicate that now it's your turn, and then now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. So it's the corpus callosum that allows them to communicate. Are we fine? Yes. All right. Right. Close your books again. When I say talk to your friend, you write down everything that I said during the lesson. Quickly. Right. Now, spinal cord. For you to understand spinal cord, there are certain terminologies that you must know. Spinal cord. First of all, I told you that the spinal cord is not the bone that moves from the foramen magnum up until the coccyx. That's a vertebral column. Inside the vertebral column, we have a spinal cord. A spinal cord is a nerve. Are we together? Right? Because a spinal cord is also important. It is protected. Remember, the brain is protected by the cranium and the meninges, right? The spinal cord is protected by number one, the vertebral column. That bone that you see in the skeleton is the one that protects the spinal cord inside. Right? So it's protected by the vertebral column. Number two, it is protected by the cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid. Right? Yeah. So vertebral column and then cerebrospinal fluid. Right. Now, you won't understand the spinal cord until you know these terminologies. Number one, you must know what is a stimulus. You must know what is a receptor. You must know what is a sensory neuron. You must know what is a connector neuron or an interneuron. You must know what is a motor neuron. Then you must know what is an effector. So these are terms that you need to know. Then once you understand these terms, then you know the spinal cord. It's 7 marks. 7 marks. You must know also what is reflex arc. And you must know what is reflex action. 7 marks. Explain reflex action. So you must know it. Right. Number one, stimulus. The word stimulus, it means a change in the environment. So if there's a change in the environment, we say it's what? It's a stimulus. It's the change in the environment. Right. A receptor, it's a structure that receives the stimulus and converts it into an impulse. Like the word impulse just means it means electronic message. Yeah, the word impulse means electronic message. So a stimulus is the change in the environment. A receptor is a structure, can be the organ or a gland that receives the stimulus and converts it into an impulse. For example, I'm walking and then I step on thorns. What are thorns? It's a stimulus because those are changed in the environment. There were no thorns all along, and all of a sudden there are thorns. So the thorns are the stimulus. Then what is a receptor? My foot, very good, my foot. Because the one that receives the stimulus. So I'm touching a hot stove. What is a hot stove? And then what is a receptor? Good. Right? So the function of the receptor is to convert that stimulus into an impulse. An impulse means electronic message. A message that will go from the hand to the brain or the spinal cord. And the spinal cord or the brain will interpret that impulse as tickling or as danger. Right, so let me just put impulse here. So this one, it's a receptor. And then here, impulse. We said this one, it's an electronic message, isn't it? Yes. Right, stimulus, say, change in the environment. Right, a receptor is a structure that receives the stimulus and converts it into an impulse. It's a structure that receives the stimulus and converts it into an impulse. Are we together? Yes. Right, so now I touched the hot stove. My hand received that stimulus and converted it into an impulse. But where is that impulse needed? The brain. Because the brain must interpret that impulse. Right? So the sensory neuron is a neuron that transmits the impulse from the receptor to the central nervous system. When I say central nervous system, I mean the brain or the spinal cord. Are we together? Right. So this is stimulus, a change in the environment. I'm walking and I step on thorns. My foot is a receptor. So as a receptor, what will my foot do? Convert stimulus into an impulse. Good. When you talk about impulse, we're talking about what? Electronic message. Yeah, it's a message that hey, this person has just stepped on a thorn. Are we together? Right. So the sensory neuron is a neuron that will transmit the impulse from the receptor to the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord. Are we together?
Yes.
Right. So what is the stimulus?
Change the environment.
Then what is the receptor? Structure that receives and converts it into an
impulse.
And then an impulse, what is an impulse? It's an electronic message. Right? Then what is a sensory neuron? A sensory neuron is a neuron that transmits the impulse from the receptor
To the central nervous system.
Are we following people? Right? So the central nervous system will receive that impulse, interpret it, and generate a response. You respond in two ways when someone is tickling you, isn't it? And when someone is stepping you. So it's the central nervous system that will generate that response. Are we together? Right. After generating a response, okay, interneuron is the one that connects the sensory neuron and the motor neuron. We'll talk about it later on. Right. So after generating a response, the motor neuron is the neuron that will take the response from the central nervous system to the muscles which are responsible for the movement of the receptor at the time. I'll repeat that again. Right, okay. For example, here's my head. I'll just draw a finger. Right, I've just touched a candle light. So what will happen is that my finger is a receptor, isn't it?
Yes.
The candle light, it's a stimulus. So the receptor will convert the stimulus into an impulse, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then the sensory neuron will transmit the impulse to the central nervous system. Are we together? So the central nervous system will interpret to say this person has just touched something that will burn him. So it will interpret that and generate a response. Obvious the response is to remove the hand, isn't it? Right. So after generating a response, then the motor neuron will take this response that is generated by the central nervous system to the muscles responsible for the movement of the finger, of the receptor. So this one is a sensory neuron, and then this one is a motor neuron. Right? And then these are the muscles which are responsible for the movement of the finger. So once these muscles receive an impulse from the central nervous system, they will contract. Then all of a sudden the finger will move from the fire. So that's how you respond to the stimulus. Are we together? Yeah, but we'll talk about it. Right. Now, what do we call these muscles? We call them the effector. Yeah. So the effector, those are muscles which are responsible for the movement of the receptor. Right. And then we have a reflex arc. A reflex arc, it's a pathway that an impulse travels from the receptor to the effector. It's a pathway. We'll talk about it right now. The reflex action, it's quick, automatic. This is 3 marks. What is reflex action? It's a quick, automatic response. Yeah. For example, if I'm touching a hot stove and I do this is called reflex action. It's a quick, automatic response. Right. Now let's do the spinal cord and then we do the eye and then we'll be done with 54 marks. Yes, yes, sir.
So is the internal stimulation, the internal stimulation?
Yeah, there's internal stimulation. For example, when you're hungry, yeah, if the stomach is empty, that's a change in the environment.
Does it affect the body the same way?
It affects the body itself. Yeah, yeah. If there's a change in the environment, then the muscles which are found in the stomach, yeah, we'll talk about it, don't worry. Right. Here's the spinal cord. Shape like this. This is called reflex arc. So this is called a reflex arc. Reflex bridge, by the way. Right? Yeah. So a reflex arc, it's a pathway that an impulse travels from the receptor to the effects. Right, so this is your hand. And then let's say this is a candle. Right, and then you're going to have a neuron here. Right. And then you're going to have muscles here. I want us to quickly label. You'll find this thing in the exam. You'll find this in the exam. Right. So, what is this one?
Stimulus.
I thought you were going to say candle. Good. It's a stimulus. Stimulus. And then what's this?
Receptor.
It's a receptor because it's the one that receives the stimulus. So if I see a car coming towards me, what's a receptor there? The eyes. It's the eyes that are seeing it. So let's say I'm walking and all of a sudden I hear the roar of a lion. What's a receptor there?
Yes.
So a receptor is anything that receives the stimulus. Right? And then what do you call this neuron here?
Sensory neuron.
It's a sensory neuron because the sensory neuron is the one that takes the impulse from the receptor to the central nervous system. So this one is called the sensory neuron. Right? And then here we are going to have what we call the connector neuron or the interneuron. So the function is just to connect the sensory neuron and the motor neuron. Yeah. So it's called the interneuron. Interneuron. Right? And then this one is called the motor neuron. So this one is the one that takes the impulse from the central nervous system to the muscles which are responsible for the movement of the receptor. Are we together?
Yes.
Right. So this one is a motor neuron. And then this one is the effect. If you can label this, my friends, we are done. Right. So now there's two roots here. This one is called the dorsal root. This one is called the ventral root. Dorsal root, ventral root. And then here we are going to have a synapse. Synapse. Synapse, if you like. Right. So we have a stimulus, a receptor, a sensory neuron, synapse, interneuron, and then synapse, motor neuron, and then
Effector.
let me erase this and see if your brain now is working the way I want you to work. A.
Stimulus.
By the time I come back for revision, because I will come back maybe later on when you're about to write your file, your brain will know how to function. Right, so A.
Stimulus.
B.
Receptor.
Receptor. C.
Sensory neuron.
Sensory neuron. Good. D.
Synapse.
Synapse. E.
Interneuron.
Let's stop here. A. What?
Stimulus.
Yeah, you are coming. I love that boy with my life. Right. A.
Stimulus.
B.
Receptor.
C.
Sensory neuron.
D.
Synapse.
Synapse. E.
Interneuron.
A.
Stimulus.
B.
Receptor.
C.
Sensory neuron.
D.
Synapse.
E.
Interneuron.
F.
Motor neuron.
G.
Effector.
Let's try and label it. A.
Stimulus.
B.
Receptor.
C.
Sensory neuron.
D.
Synapse.
E.
Interneuron.
F.
Motor neuron.
G.
Effector.
Effector. Who's saying, sir, I can label the spinal cord now? Yeah. People must, it must be a buffet. I must choose. Yes, ma'am, I study corners and I come in the middle. And I come in front. Alright. A, stimulus, B,
Receptor.
C,
Sensory neuron. Smell. Something. Is interneuron.
interneuron,
Motor neuron. Effector.
Alright. Another one in the middle. Oh, yes. Yes. A,
Stimulus,
B,
receptor,
C,
sensory neuron,
D,
synapse,
E,
interneuron,
F,
motor neuron,
G.
effector.
Good. Now, yes, like this. What is A?
Stimulus,
B,
receptor,
C,
sensory neuron,
D,
synapse,
E,
interneuron,
F,
motor neuron.
G. Good. Right. So if they show you this, I believe in my heart that you'll be able to label it. Alright. So now if they show you the structure and they say use a diagram above to explain reflex action. I want you to listen to me. You are going to say the heat of the candle is a stimulus. The heat of the candle, that's one mark. The heat of the candle is a stimulus. The finger is a receptor. 2 marks. Then the heat of the candle is a stimulus. The finger is a receptor. Then you're going to say, as a receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into an impulse. Can you get that, the marks?
Yes.
Number one, say, the heat of the candle is a stimulus.
The finger is the receptor.
As a receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus
into an impulse.
Right, can you say that again?
Yes.
The
The heat of the candle is the stimulus. The finger is the receptor. As the receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus
will convert the stimulus
into an impulse.
Simple. Okay, let's try it again.
The heat of the candle is the stimulus. The finger is the receptor. As the receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into an impulse.
Right, and then from there, you are going to say the sensory neuron, now there's an impulse. The sensory neuron will transmit the impulse from the receptor to the spinal cord, because we are talking about the spinal cord here. The sensory neuron will transmit the impulse from the receptor
To the spinal cord.
Can you try it again?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
The heat of the candle is the stimulus. The finger is the receptor. As the receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into an impulse.
And then
The sensory neuron will transmit the impulse from the receptor to the spinal cord.
or you can even say the sensory neuron will transmit the impulse to the spinal cord. Is that fine?
Yes.
Yeah. So the heat of the candle is a stimulus, the finger is a receptor. As a receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into an impulse. The sensory neuron will transmit the impulse to the spinal cord.
How many marks is that?
4. Hey, you're not joking. Right. Are we together? Yeah, but just know that this is dorsal roots, and then this is ventral roots. Right. And then from there, you are going to say, then the impulse will move from the sensory neuron to the interneuron via the synapse. The sensor, the impulse will move from the sensory neuron to the interneuron via the synapse. Via the synapse. Right. So when you arrive here, now you talk about the impulse. Is it that the sensory neuron transmits the impulse to the spinal cord? Then this impulse will then move from the sensory neuron to the interneuron via the synapse. Are we together?
Yes.
Right, let's start. Yeah?
The heat of the candle is the stimulus.
Yeah?
The finger is the receptor. As the receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into an impulse. The sensory neuron will transmit the impulse to the spinal cord.
The impulse will move from the
Sensory neuron to the internal neuron via the synapse.
Then when you and then you say, and from the interneuron to the motor neuron via the synapse. And from the interneuron to the motor neuron via the synapse. Right, let's start from scratch. We'll be fine. Huh?
The heat of the candle is the stimulus.
Uh-huh.
The finger is the receptor. As the receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into an impulse. The sensory neuron transmits the impulse to the spinal cord. The impulse will move from the sensory neuron to the interneuron via the synapse, and from the interneuron to the motor neuron via the synapse.
Then you're going to say the motor neuron will transmit the impulse to the effect. Then you're done. The effector will contract and respond to the stimulus. It's 7 marks. 7 marks. Right. We are trying to get this 54 marks, eh? Right. So don't forget this one. The function of the motor neuron is to transmit the impulse
To the effector.
then the effector will contract to respond to the stimulus. Okay, let's try it again. Huh?
The heat of the candle is the stimulus. The finger is the receptor. As the receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into an impulse. The sensory neuron will transmit the impulse to the spinal cord.
Right. I want this row O. Right. So the function of the sensory neuron. So now this is 1, 2, 3. So the heat of the candle is the stimulus. The finger is a receptor. As a receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into an impulse. And then number 3, the sensory neuron will transmit the impulse to the spinal cord. And then from there, the impulse will move from the sensory neuron to the interneuron via the synapse. And from the interneuron to the motor neuron via the synapse. The motor neuron will transmit the impulse to the effector. The effector will contract and respond to the stimulus. 7 marks. Can we try it again? You must know it now. I don't want you to now strike when you're studying. I want you to know it now. Right. Who can say it alone? Hey, I'm so excited. I'm seeing many hands. Lift up your hands very well. I want to see you. Yeah. Sharp. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Who's saying, say, I can say it, but I'm not sure. Where I'm wrong, I'll just say skip. I want those ones now. You are the one.
The heat of the candle is the stimulus, and the finger is the receptor. As a receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into an impulse. And send to the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron will transmit the impulse to the spinal cord.
So now, here's the impulse in the spinal cord. What will happen now? The impulse will move from the sensory neuron
To the
sensory neuron via the synapse, and from the interneuron to the motor neuron via the synapse. The motor neuron will transmit the impulse to the effector. The effector will contract and respond to the stimulus. I want someone who thinks I can say it alone. The confident ones. I haven't heard your voice. Yes.
The heat from the candle is the stimulus, and the finger is the receptor. As a receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into impulse, and the sensory neuron will transmit the impulse to the spinal cord. The impulse will enter the interneuron via the synapse, and then from the synapse to the motor neuron via the synapse, and then the motor neuron will transmit the impulse to the effector, and the effector will contrast and respond to the stimulus.
Good. I want another one. Yes.
The heat of the candle is the stimulus. The finger is the receptor. As the receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into an impulse. The impulse will then travel via the sensory neuron. Sensory neuron to the spinal cord. The sensory neuron will then move via the synapse to the interneuron, and out of the interneuron via the synapse to the motor neuron. The motor neuron will then transmit the impulse to the effector, which will then react to the stimulus.
I want another one. Last one. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So the heat from the candle is the stimulus, and the finger is the receptor. The receptor changes the heat from the candle into an impulse. Then the impulse moves from the sensory neuron to the spinal cord. Then it goes to the interneuron through the synapse. Then from the interneuron to the motor neuron through another synapse. Then from the motor neuron to the effector. Then the effector responds to the stimuli by contracting.
Yes. But you also mentioned that the sensory neuron transmits, the motor neuron transmits. Right. Okay, fine. This is a reflex. Okay, let's say it as a class. No? Yeah. And I see there are certain people who are explaining it their own way. It's correct. It's perfect. Correct. Yeah. Right. So I like even this one that says the sensor, the impulse will enter the interneuron via the synapse. I even love that one. And move out of the interneuron via the synapse to the okay. Right. All of us, number one.
The heat of the candle is the stimulus. The finger is the receptor. As the receptor, the finger will convert the stimulus into an impulse. The sensory neuron transmits the impulse to the spinal cord. The impulse will move from the sensory neuron to the interneuron via the synapse, then from the interneuron to the motor neuron via the synapse. The motor neuron will transmit the impulse to the effector. The effector will contract and respond to the stimulus.
Good. Right. Now, this is very important, very important. This is very important. They will ask you, what will happen if the sensory neuron is damaged? What will happen? Right. So if the sensory neuron is damaged, it means that the person cannot feel the stimulus, because the feeling of the stimulus is interpreted by the spinal cord. It's interpreted in the sensory nervous, in the central nervous system, right? So if this is damaged, it means that even if you can touch a mechanic, you will never feel that you're touching a mechanic until you are completely bent. Are we together? Right. So if the sensory neuron is damaged, it means that you cannot feel, you cannot detect a stimulus, but you can respond to it because the motor neuron is working. So let's say now I'm touching a hot stove. I won't feel that I'm touching a hot stove until my hand is completely bent. When I look at my hand, I can still remove it because the motor neuron is still working. So if the sensory neuron is damaged, it means that you cannot feel the stimulus. You can't feel the pain. You can't feel pain. You can't feel it. You can't. They can step here. You can't feel pain. You can't feel it. Right. Now they will ask you, what will happen then if the sensory neuron is working but the motor neuron is damaged? Yes.
So if your sensory neuron is damaged, and if you touch and you see that you've touched something hot and your hand is burning, would it still be considered as a reflex if you move your hand?
No, it won't be. Because remember, a reflex is quick automatic response. Yeah. So if you move your hand, it will be considered as a voluntary action. A voluntary response. Because you saw it and you thought, okay, fine, I'm burning, let me remove my hand. I'll be fine. Right? So now if the motor neuron is damaged, it means that you can feel the pain, but you can't respond to it. In other words, you'll be touching a hot stove like this, and you'll be crying. But you can't move your hands. You can't. You'll be feeling the pain. You can't. Have you had those dreams whereby, they are strangling you, you want to talk, but you can't. You want to move, but you can't. Right? So just remember that if the motor neuron is damaged, you can feel the pain, but you can't respond to it. If the sensory neuron is damaged, you can't feel the pain, but you can respond to it. Yes?
So is it possible for the interneuron to be damaged while the other two won't?
Yes. If the interneuron is damaged, it means that you can feel the pain, because now look at the sensory neuron, it enters the spinal cord.
Yes.
It means you can feel the pain, but you can't respond because the impulse cannot move from the sensory neuron to the motor neuron. So remember that it's 3 marks. It's 3 marks. Right. So now they are going to ask you to draw neuron A, neuron B, neuron C. They are going to ask you to do that. Please draw the neuron. Right. 5 marks for each. Right. So here's this is sensory neuron. So it is shaped like this. Right. So this is how a sensory neuron is shaped. It has a bulge in here. This is called the dorsal ganglion. Dorsal ganglion. Don't worry much about it. Right, so now we have A, these are dendrites. Dendrites. So these are dendrites. Dendrites. And then this one is a cell body. Cell body. And then this one is an axon. Axon. And then these are terminals, branches of the axon. Terminals. Branches of the axon. And then you are going to have this. This is called the myelin sheath. Myelin sheath. Not sheath. Sheath. Right. So this is a sensory neuron. It's a sensory neuron. This is a sensory neuron. The structure of a sensory neuron. That's how you draw it. Right. And then an interneuron is drawn like this. But the cell body, here the cell body is bulging out. Here the cell body is in the middle. Right. Still, these are dendrites. This is a cell body. This is an axon. And then this is a myelin sheath. And this is terminal branches of the axon. These are terminal branches. Right. And then the motor neuron is shaped like this. It's shaped like a finger. So we are going to have the cell body, and then here there's dendrites, and then the axon, then these are terminals. Right. So this is the structure of a sensory neuron, interneuron, and motor neuron. So a motor neuron, dendrites, cell body, axon, myelin sheath, terminal branches.
So the branches are the ones connected.
No, the axon is the one in the middle, and then the myelin sheath is the one that insulates, that covers the axon. Yeah. Right. Now, the function of the dendrites is to transmit the impulse towards the cell body. So, the function of the dendrites is to transmit impulse towards the cell body, even here. Even here. So, the function of the dendrite is transmits the impulse towards the cell body. Right? So, the cell body is responsible for cell reactions. Cell reactions. It's a cell. It's a cell. Right. Now we have the axon. The function of the axon is to transmit the impulse away from the cell body. Yeah. The function of the axon is transmit the impulse away from the cell body. The dendrites transmit the impulse towards the cell body. The axon transmit the impulse away from the cell body. Are we together? Then the function of the myelin sheath is to speed up the transmission of the impulse. It speeds up the transmission of the impulse. Make sure that the impulse moves fast, because this is a millisecond. So it speeds up the transmission of the impulse. Then we don't talk about terminal branches. Right. What's the function of the dendrites? Transmit impulse towards the body. Function of the axon? Transmit impulse away from the cell body. Let's do it again. Right? What's the function of the dendrites?
Transmit the impulse towards the cell body.
Function of the axon?
Transmit the impulse away from the cell body.
Right. Then the function of the myelin sheath is to speed up the transmission of the impulse. It speeds up the transmission of the impulse. So the impulse moves from the dendrites, cell body, axon, terminals, branches of the axon. Yeah, just remember it like that. So the impulse moves from dendrites, cell body, axon, terminals, branches of the. Are you hearing me? Yeah? Yeah. Listen to me now. The impulse move from the dendrites to the cell body, to the axon, to the terminals, branches of the axon. It's like dendrites, cell body, axon, terminal branches of the axon. Again,
Dendrites, cell body, axon, terminal branches of the axon.
Okay, so I'll say the impulse move from the
Dendrites, cell body, axon, terminal branches of the axon.
again,
Dendrites,
again,
cell body, axon, terminal branches of the axon.
Dr. Said is right, okay. Hit your test like this. So wait. So the impulse move from the
Dendrites,
to the
cell body, axon, terminal branches of the axon.
again.
Dendrites, cell body, axon, terminal branches of the axon.
You'll be fine. You know, we sing a lot here with that. You see. You see. Alright, so what is A?
Dendrites,
Dendrites. B?
Cell body,
C?
axon,
D?
terminal branches of the axon.
Right. So this is okay. Again, what is A here?
Dendrites,
B?
cell body,
C?
axon,
D?
terminal branches of the axon.
A?
Dendrites,
B?
cell body,
C?
axon,
D?
terminal branches of the axon.
But also don't forget the mind sheet, isn't it? What is the name of this neuron? Name of this neuron? This one?
Interneuron,
This one?
motor neuron.
Right. Remember, a motor neuron is shaped like a finger, a head. Let me say a head. Right. So my fingers, what are they? Dendrites. Then my palm,
It's a cell body,
and then my bone inside,
axon,
and then my skin,
mind sheath.
yeah. And then the sensory neuron has a bulging. So you have the dendrites, then the cell body, then the axon, and then terminal branches of the axon. Right. Now listen here. There are two defects associated with the spinal cord. There are two defects. Alright, but we'll talk about them later. Okay, number one, it's called the multiple sclerosis. Yeah, these are two defects associated with the brain and the spinal cord. The first one is the multiple sclerosis. Yeah, multiple sclerosis, isn't it? This is a mind sheet, isn't it? Yeah. So a multiple sclerosis, it means the degeneration of the mind sheet. Yeah. So that's when the mind sheet degenerates, not damage, degenerates. Yeah. It's multiple sclerosis. And then we have Alzheimer's. That's when the frontal, that's when the frontal lobe of your cerebral cortex is being damaged. Frontal lobe of your cerebral cortex is being damaged. Yeah. The frontal lobe. Yeah. One of the symptoms of Alzheimer's is memory loss and confusion. Yeah. That's when your frontal lobe of the cerebral cortex is damaged. Yeah. Frontal. We have person like so it's 6, 4. Right, so a person has two lobes. We have a frontal lobe That's when the frontal lobe of the cerebral cortex is damaged. Are we together? Right. People, we are done with the spinal cord. Now we enter the eye, and then we do the ear, and then we'll be done. With 50, we'll be done 10-2. Yeah. So now I'll give you a little break. Yeah, so to just unwind. Yeah, and come back for the. So this is ciliary muscle, suspensor ligament, lens. Right? Repeat again. Yeah. Okay. Again. A. Conjunctiva. B. Cornea. C.
Aqueous humor.
Humor. This.
Iris.
And then the open here.
Pupil.
This one.
Ciliary muscle.
Ciliary muscle.
Suspensory ligament.
Suspensor ligament.
Lens.
And lens. So we find. Right. So the fluid that is found here is called the aqueous humor. But the fluid that is found here is called the vitreous humor. Vitreous humor. Vitreous humor. So aqueous humor, vitreous humor. Here? Aqueous humor, vitreous humor. Vitreous humor. Yeah. Right. So now we are here. A.
Conjunctiva.
B.
Cornea.
C.
Aqueous humor.
D.
Iris.
E.
Pupil.
F.
Ciliary muscle.
G.
Suspensory ligament.
H.
The lens.
And then I. Vitreous humor. So if you miss it, you start afresh. Right. A.
Conjunctiva.
B.
Cornea. Aqueous humor.
D.
Iris.
E.
Pupil.
F.
Ciliary muscle.
G.
Suspensory ligament.
H.
Lens.
I.
Vitreous humor.
Vitreous humor. Right. And then the eye, the internal eye, has 3 layers. The first layer is called the retina or the retina, if you like, but it's the retina. Right. The retina, and then the choroid, not choroid, choroid, and then the sclera, sometimes called the sclerosis. Right. So the inner layer is the retina, second layer choroid, and then the third one sclera. Right. And then last but not least, we have the optic nerve. Optic nerve. Can you label the eye? Let's try. You must be able. Right. We'll try it up until you are able to label the eye. Right. A.
Conjunctiva.
B.
Cornea.
C.
Aqueous humor.
D.
Iris.
E.
Pupil.
Iris, and then pupil, and then ciliary muscle, and then suspensor ligaments, lens, vitreous humor, retina, choroid, sclera, optic nerve. Yes. I will talk about yellow spot and bright spot. Right. Again, A.
Conjunctiva,
B,
cornea,
C,
aqueous humor,
aqueous humor. Are you seeing it? So it's the conjunctiva,
cornea,
aqueous humor,
iris,
pupil, ciliary muscle, suspensory ligament, lens, ventral humor, retina, choroid, sclera, and then optic nerve. One person, I want one person. One. I need a person who say, I'll label up to where I know. And then where I don't know, I don't know. Right. I have different hands. I've never heard your voice. Yes. A. Don't worry about pronunciation.
cornea, aqueous humor,
And then,
the iris,
and then this.
pupil, ciliary muscle, suspensory ligament, lens, ventral humor, retina, choroid, and the sclera, and then optic nerve.
Good, clap hands for her.
But he's going to eat.
Okay. Another one. Another one. How about another one? You can leave there. Try. Let's try. Okay, try. Close your book. If you don't know it, pass. Even if you know one, or just it's fine. Right? A. B. And then iris, and then this. Spinal ligament. This one is the lens. Pass. Okay. Pass. Right. So this is the inner layer is the retina. And retina, whatever you pronounce it, but it's the retina. Then the second one is the choroid. And then the third one is the sclera. Right? And then this is the optic. That's why if you're struggling with your eyes, you go to a doctor, just call them optometrist. Right? So this is an optic nerve. Yeah. Right. It's the again. Then this is optic nerve. Right. So another one, it's aqueous humor, and then ventral humor. A comes before B. So aqueous humor, first one, ventral humor. All right. Who can label the entire eye now? Okay. Yes. A. C. Pass. You say pass if you look at the number. Pass, okay.
Aqueous,
Iris, and then this. People,
Then is the cerebral muscle. Suspensory ligament. Lens. Then the ventral humor. Then there's the retina. Choroid. And then the sclera. And then the optic.
Good boy. Right. And then the last one. I want the last one. Last one. From this side.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this,
No?
so this one doesn't answer. So doesn't answer anything.
It's fine. You still have the ear. Right. Can I hear your voice? Yes. A. Conjunctiva. Cornea. Aqueous humor.
Pupil, No, the iris.
Iris, and then this opening.
The pupil.
And then
Skip.
skip, and then these ones.
Suspensory ligament.
Suspensor ligament. Skip, and then this.
The lens.
Okay, this is the lens.
Or the lens.
Yeah, this, it's also a
Ventures you.
and then
And then
retina.
and then colon.
Correct.
Colon. And then skip.
Sclera. And then this one.
Optic nerve.
Optic nerve. Right. So this is the eye. Yeah, thank you. Clap hands for it. So because of time, ne? Yeah, I'll just tell you the functions that you're going to read at home, and then your teacher will explain further. But I'm just here. Plan mechanism and accommodation. If you can just know these two, then you can go to the ear and 12:30 will be done. Right. So now we have the conjunctiva. If you like to write, you can write, but it's there on your distinction material. Right. So the conjunctiva, the function of the conjunctiva is that it protects the external eye. It has pain receptors. Right? Because if it does not have pain receptors, bacteria can just come here and destroy the eye. So if there's a bacteria here, the pain receptors will be stimulated and you want to run and wash it away. Like for example, if you're bathing or there's something that entered your eye. So the function of the conjunctiva is that it protects the external eye from foreign objects. So the eye is protected by 3 things. Number 1, it's protected by the eyelid, the eyelashes, and the conjunctiva. Eyelid, eyelashes, and conjunctiva. Right, so the function of the conjunctiva is to protect the external eye. It protects the external eye. Right, and then we have the cornea. The function of the cornea is to refract light. The word refract, it means to bend. It bends light. Right, for example, here's your eye. And then here's a human being. We are looking at the human being. This image must enter the pupil. So the function of the conjunctiva is to refract, to reduce the image so that it can be able to enter the pupil. Are we together? Yeah, because you are seeing it. It's a large building, but this large building must enter the small opening. Because you don't see objects, you see light, the reflection of light. Are we together? Right, so the function of the cornea is to refract light so that it's focused on the pupil. So it bends the light. When the light enters here, it bends it so that it's focused on the pupil. So the function of the cornea is to refract light. Right, and then we have the aqueous humor. The function of the aqueous humor is to support the shape of the cornea. So the cornea must be equally curved. And what makes it to be equally curved is this fluid that is here. It supports the shape. Because if it's not equally curved, then we are going to have a disease or a disorder which is called I'm thinking about it, astigmatism. Astigmatism is the unequal curvature of the cornea. Astigmatism. Right, so the cornea must be equally curved. What makes it to be equally curved is the aqueous humor. It supports the shape of the cornea. Right, and then we have the iris. The function of the iris is to control the amount of light that is entering the eye. It controls the amount of light that is entering. The light will enter through the pupil. So the function of the iris is to control the size of the pupil. When it controls the size of the pupil, it regulates the amount of light that is entering the eye. For example, if it closes the pupil, it means less light will enter the eye. If it opens the pupil, which means more light will enter the eye. So the function of the iris is to control the amount of light that is entering the eye. And obviously during the bright lights, it closes the pupil so that less light enters the eye. When it's dim, it opens the pupil so that more light can enter the eye. Are we together? So the function of the iris is to control the amount of light that is entering the eye. Right? And then the pupil, function of the pupil is to just allow the light to enter the eye. It allows the light to enter the eye. Allows the light to enter the eye. Now you have the ciliary muscle. The ciliary muscle, it contracts and relaxes to change the shape of the lens. It contracts and relaxes to change the shape of the lens. Contracts and relaxes in order to change the shape of the lens. Right, and then you have the suspensory ligament. The function of the suspensory ligament is to hold the lens in position. Make sure that the lens is perpendicular with the pupil. Right, it holds the lens in position. Right, and then you have the vitreous humor. The function of the vitreous humor is to support the shape of the eyeball. This one supports the shape of the cornea. This one supports the shape of the eyeball. Right, and then now we come to the retina. Right, the retina, that's where the image is formed. What I'm seeing is light. The image is formed in the retina. It has what you call the photoreceptors. The word photo, it means light. So it converts the light stimulus into an image. Right? It has what you call photoreceptors. Right? So the retina has a yellow spot. The yellow spot, that's where the clearest image is formed. But the blind spot, the reason why a clearest image is formed here is because there's high concentration of what? Photoreceptors. There's a high concentration of photoreceptors. And then in the blind spot, no image is formed here. Why? Because there are no photoreceptors. Right? And then we have the choroid. The function is? Alright. So now, we are saying that the function of the retina, that's where the image is formed. Right? And the reason why the image is formed here is because, remember I said you see light. Yeah, you see light. Whatever that you see is the reflection of light. That if it can be 12 midnight and you close all the windows, can you see anything? No, you can't see anything. In the yellow spot. That's where the clearest image is formed. Why? Because there's a high concentration of photoreceptors. Here is the blind spot. So if you can't see, which means the light is entering in the blind spot. The person, can you see? There are people who can't see, but they have eyes. Are we together? It can be caused by many things. Right? But one of the things is that the light enters into the blind spot. Why? Because the person can even blink. They have eyes, but they can't see. Why? Because the image is here in the blind spot. The light is entering the blind spot. Yes?
So the light is refracted in the yellow spot, not the
blind spot. So when the light enters here, so the light is refracted like this. When it enters here, it will be refracted into the yellow spot. But if the lens is not functioning properly, then the light will be directed to the blind spot. It will just enter straight. And then you won't be able to see. Why? Because there are no photoreceptors here. Yes, sir.
So the blind spot is in front of the optic nerve?
Yeah, it's just in front of the optic nerve. Yeah. Just in front of it. This is where you can't see. If the light enters straight like this, you won't be able to see because this is a blind spot. Why is it called a blind spot? Because it does not have photoreceptors. Are we together? Right, and then are you fine? So here, that's where the clearest image is formed. Why do we have the clearest image here? Because there's high concentration of photoreceptors. Right? And then here, there's no image. Why? Because there's no photoreceptors. There's no photoreceptors. Right? And then you have the choroid. The function of the choroid is that, number one, it is richly supplied with blood vessels. It has a lot of blood vessels. These blood vessels, they supply oxygen and nutrients to the eye. Yeah. It supplies oxygen and nutrients to the eye. That's the function of the choroid, to supply oxygen and nutrients to the eye. Number one. Number two, it absorbs excess light. It absorbs, but we'll talk about it later on. Right, and then we have the sclera. The function of the sclera, it protects the internal eye. This one, conjunctiva, it protects the external eye. The sclera protects the internal eye. Yes.
What the choroid does.
Right, so the choroid, number one, you see it is dark, it is pigmented. Right? The reason why it is pigmented is because it is richly supplied with blood vessels. There are so many blood vessels that are here. So the function of the choroid is to supply oxygen and nutrients to the eye. Are we together? Because remember, the function of the blood is to transport oxygen and nutrients to every part of the body. Are we together? So these blood vessels are found in the choroid. And so the function of the choroid really is to supply oxygen and nutrients to the eye. Are we together? Right. And then we have the optic nerve. The function of the optic nerve is to transmit the impulse to the cerebrum. Not to the brain, to the cerebrum. Because the brain has many parts. Right? But the part that interprets sensation is the cerebrum. The sense of sight. So the function of the optic nerve is to transmit the impulse to the cerebrum. Right? I said this function you learn them, will be taught by a teacher, isn't it? Psych, you learn them now. Close your book. Right, close your book. Alright. It's fine. Right, so the function of the conjunctiva, it protects the external eye. Conjunctiva, it does what?
Protects the external eye.
The function of the cornea is to refract light. What's the function of the cornea?
To refract light.
Conjunctiva.
Protects the external eye.
Cornea.
Refract light.
Refract light. Then the aqueous humor, the function of the aqueous humor supports the shape of the cone. Right, conjunctiva
protects the external eye.
And then cornea refracts light. And then aqueous humor supports the shape of the cornea. Right. And then you have the iris. The function of the iris is to do what? Control the amount of light that enters the eye. It does what? Controls the amount of light that enters the eye. Again, controls the amount of light that enters the eye. Right, and then the pupil, it allows the light to enter the eye. Does what?
Allows the light to enter the eye.
Right, conjunctiva, what does the conjunctiva do?
Protects the external eye.
Then the cornea
refracts
light. Then the aqueous humor supports the shape of the cornea. And then the iris controls the amount of light that enters the eye. Yeah, it controls the amount of light that enters the eye. Right, and then you have the pupil. The pupil, it just does what? Allows the light to enter the eye. It's like the door. This opening here, it just allows wind to enter, isn't it? But the door can control the amount of wind that is entering. When I open it right like this, more wind can enter. But if I close it like this, which means less fluid can enter. So that's a function of the iris. It controls the amount of light that is entering the eye. Right. Now we have the ciliary muscle. The position. It does what? It holds the lens in position. See, people, once you know human response to the environment, paper 1, it's done. It's a pass. Because it's 54 marks. So it's must that you know it. And why is it that I'm emphasizing that you must know it now? It's because I looked at the timetable, it's packed. You'll be writing geography after geography, economics, physics, but you won't have time to study. You must know it now. Right, so now we have the ventral humor. Oh, this one contracts and relaxes to change the shape of the lens, isn't it? Yes. Then this one holds the lens in position. It holds the lens in position. Then the function of the lens is to change shape for near and far vision. It does what? Change shape for near and far vision. For near and far vision. We learn about that. Right. And then we have the ventral humor supports the shape of the eyeball. This one supports the shape of the cornea. This one supports the shape of the eyeball. The conjunctiva protects the external eye. The sclera protects the internal eye. Are you seeing it? The ventral humor supports the shape of the eyeball. The aqueous humor supports the shape of the cornea. The sclera protects the internal eye. The conjunctiva protects the external eye. Right? So the retina, that's where you shall say that's where the image is formed. Then you get a mark. That's where the image is formed. Right? This is a yellow spot. What's happening in the yellow spot? No, what's happening here? That's where the clearness of the image is formed. Why? Because there's high concentration of photoreceptors. And then here, no image is formed. No vision here. Why? Because there are no photoreceptors. There are no photoreceptors. And then the function of the choroid is to supply oxygen and nutrients. See, I want someone who can label and give function. Now, yes, try. So, if you forgot,
The winner gets a JP.
There must be a price. Yeah, there must be. All right. Now, labeling the I am giving the functions. Right, A, what is A?
Conjunctiva.
What's the function of the conjunctiva?
Protects the external eye.
Good. B?
B is the cornea.
What's the function of the cornea?
Reflects light.
Good. C?
C is the aqueous humor.
What's the function of the aqueous humor?
Supports the shape of the cornea.
Good. And then this one, D?
Iris.
Iris, what's the function?
Controls the amount of light entering the eye.
Good. And then this one?
The pupil.
The pupil. Function?
Allows light to pass through.
Good. This one?
Ciliary muscle.
It's fine.
Ciliary muscle.
That's what?
Contracts and relax to change the shape of the lens.
Good. And then this one?
Suspensory ligaments. Holds the lens in place.
And then?
That's the lens. Allow reflex light.
Number one, refract light. Good.
Reflects light into the yellow spot.
And then this part?
That is the ventral view.
Function?
Supports the shape of the eyeball.
Good. The first layer?
That is the retina.
Retina,
where images are formed.
Good. And then this part, what do you call this part?
Yellow spot.
What's happening in the yellow spot?
In the yellow spot, there is a high concentration of photoreceptors.
And as a result of that, what will
There is a
happen?
clear image formed.
Clear image is formed. Here?
Choroid. Oh, sorry, blind spot. The blind spot, there is no image formed because there is a lack of photoreceptors.
Good. And then this part?
Choroid. Choroid supplies oxygen and nutrients to the eyeball.
Good.
And then the sclera protects the internal eye.
Uh-huh.
And then the for the optic nerve transmits impulse to the brain.
To the brain.
No,
To the cell. Clap hands for you. Yeah. What's your name? What's your name, bro?
Yes.
Good. Thank you so much. Who's saying Aya knows it? I also know it.
Who says I can beat I?
Who says I can beat Aya? Who says Aya? I can beat. Yeah, I just one, and then we do this, and then we do the ear again. We are done. One. Yeah. Try. All right. A. Conjunctive function.
Protects the external eye.
Good. B.
The cornea. Reflects light.
Good. Refract. Ne?
Yes.
C.
The aqueous humor supports the shape of the cornea.
Good. D.
D is the pupil of the iris. Sorry. It reflects light.
No, it does not.
Controls the amount of light entering the eye.
And then this one.
The pupil allows light to enter.
Good. Then this one.
This one is the cerebral muscle.
The muscle.
It contracts and relaxes in order to control the shape of the lens.
Good. Then this one.
The suspensory ligaments. They hold the lens in place. This is the lens. It reflects the light to the yellow spot.
Good.
The ventral humor supports the shape of the eyeball.
Good.
And this is the retina. Where clear images are formed.
Sorry?
The retina. Clear images are formed. Yeah?
Okay. Here?
This is the yellow spots. There's a high concentration of photoreceptors.
Then here?
Blind spots. Low concentration of photoreceptors.
Then here?
The choroid.
Choroid head?
Yes, it's where
it supplies what?
It supplies oxygen and nutrients to the
head. And then this one?
The sclera. It protects the internal eye. And the optic nerve transmits the impulse to the cerebrum.
Good. Now okay. Who is that? Yeah, in flesh. All right. So now this is two functions of the eye. Right. The first one is the pupillary mechanism. It helps you to see in bright lights and in dim lights. How are you able to see in bright lights? How are you able to see in dim lights? Right, and then this is accommodation. How are you able to see objects which are nearby and objects which are far away? Right. So pupillar, when you see the word pupillar, L for lights. We're talking about lights. We're talking about bright lights or dim lights. So pupillar, just know we're talking about bright lights or dim lights. Right, and then accommodate. Just know you're talking about what? Distance. Near and far. So yeah, we're talking about the near and far. Right, so we're going to do pupillary mechanism. What deals with light here? It's the iris and the pupil. The iris controls the amount of light that enters the eye. The pupil allows the light to enter the eye. Alright. Okay. So now here's your eye. So we are going to have the sclera here, this white part, and then you are going to have the iris, the brown part, the colored part, right? And then inside there's a dot which is called the pupil, right? Now, what do we call the line that moves from the center to the circumference? It's a radius, isn't it? So these muscles are called the radial muscles. So the iris has the radial muscles and the circular muscles. So these are radial muscles. And then we are going to also have the circular muscles. So these are circular muscles. So these are muscles which helps to contract, which helps to change the shape or the size of the pupil. Right, so in bright light, what happens? In bright light, you need more light to enter your eye or less light to enter your eye? Yes, because it's already bright, isn't it? Yeah, so you need less light to enter your eye. Right, so in bright lights, when they say it's 5 marks, 5 marks. So when they say explain pupillary mechanism for bright light, so you're going to say radial muscles of the iris relax. Everything is straight. Right, so in bright lights, the radial muscles of the iris relax. The circular muscle of the iris contracts. RRCC. And then the pupil constricts. The word constrict, it means it becomes small. The pupil constricts, and then less light enters the eye. 5 marks. Explain pupillary mechanism for bright light. Radial muscles relax. Circular muscles contract. And then the pupil constricts. Then what will happen? Less light enters the eye. So when you say bright lights, everything is straight. Yeah. R goes with R, C goes with C. That's your first 4 marks. Right, so then in dim light is the opposite. So in dim light, which means the radial muscle will do what? Contracts. The circular muscles do what? Relax. Then the pupil will dilate. Say to get bigger, it means it will dilate. The pupil dilates. And then more light enters the eye. So in bright light, radial relax, circular contract, pupil constrict, less light enters the eye. Less light. Bambi, right, okay. Sip in the foot. Repeat again. In bright light, radial relax, circular contract, pupil constricts, less light enters the eye. 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 Alright, so we say the radial muscles of the iris relax. The circular muscles of the iris contracts. The pupil constricts. And then less light enters the eye. Right, and then in dim light, radial muscles of the iris contract. Circular muscles of the iris relax. The pupil dilates, and then more light enters the eye. Alright, so now if they show you something like this, is this for dim light or for bright light?
Dim light.
Dim light. Good. Give a reason for answer. A visible reason. Yes? The pupil is dilated. The pupil is dilated. And then this one? It's bright light. Why? Give a reason for answer. The pupil is constricted. Are we together? Right. So now, class. I'm erasing now. You know, you must erase. So just remember, RR, CC, PC. Alright. Now tell me. Explain pupillary mechanism for bright lights.
Radial
muscles.
relax.
Not radial muscle. Radial muscle of the iris. Yeah. What's happening during bright lights?
Radial muscles of the iris
And then?
Secular muscles.
Is it that the iris has two muscles? It's the radial muscles, secular muscles. Okay, start afresh. Here, what will happen?
Radial muscles of the iris relax.
Good.
Secular muscles of the iris contract.
And then?
Pupil constrict.
Then the pupil constricts. And then when it's constricted, what will happen?
There's light enters the eye.
Bright lights again. What will happen during bright lights?
Radial muscles of the iris relax.
Radial muscles of the iris relax.
Secular muscles of the iris contract.
Secular muscles of the iris contract.
Pupil constricts.
Pupil constricts. And then what will happen after?
Less light enters the eye.
Right. Dim light. What will happen during dim light?
Radial muscles of the iris contract.
Radial muscles of the iris contract.
Secular muscles of the iris relax.
Good. And then?
Pupil dilates.
The pupil dilates. And then?
More light enters the eye.
Who can tell me pupillary mechanism for both bright lights and dim lights? I want one person. I will erase except for I. I know different hands. Right. So here's a question. A question is saying a boy was walking, and all of a sudden there was a beam of light that came. Explain the pupillary mechanism that happened. It's for bright light or dim light?
Bright light.
Hey, you can explain to us what will happen. Have confidence. Yes.
The radial muscles, the legs.
Radial muscles, legs.
The circulating muscles, contract.
Secular muscles contract.
The pupil, constricts.
The pupil constricts.
And less light enters the eye.
And then less light enters the eye. Clap hands for me. Right, here's a question. A boy was studying at midnight, and all of a sudden there was load shedding. Explain the pupillary mechanism that happened. Is it for bright light or for dim light?
Dim light.
That's dim light. Yes.
Okay, so the radial muscles contract.
Radial muscles of the iris contract.
The secular muscles of the iris reflex.
Secular muscle of the iris relax.
The pupil dilates.
The pupil will dilate.
And more light will enter the eye.
Then more light will enter the eye. These are mice. Now, yes.
Mechanism and also accommodation, would that be another example of parasympathetic
Nervous system. Yes. Yeah, it can be. Yeah. Remember, during a sympathetic response, your pupil dilates. Your pupil dilates. You want to see everything that's happening. And then during a parasympathetic response, the pupil constricting goes back to normal. Yeah.
So,
Yes.
there's this thing when you look at someone you like, your pupils.
Yes. Yes. Where did you hear that?
No, TikTok.
Let me not talk about that one. Alright, so now accommodation. Accommodation. Right. Accommodation. This one, it's the adjustment of the pupil for bright and dim light. No? This one's the adjustment of the lens for far. Right. So now, here we are talking about the ciliary muscle, the suspensory ligament, and the lens. Right? So when we are looking at something that is 6 meters and below, that's near vision. 6 meters and further, that's far vision. Right? So during a near vision, okay, this is 4 marks, I think this one is 6 marks. During a near vision, the ciliary muscle contracts. The suspensory ligaments slacken. We say they slacken, they become loose. Suspensory ligaments slacken. And then the tension on the lens. So this is ciliary muscle, slacken. Tension on the lens decreases. Lens becomes more convex. Light is refracted. So this is ciliary muscle, suspensory ligament, lens. Right? Repeat again. It's like tension on the lens decreases. Lens becomes more convex. Light is refracted more. And then image is focused on the retina. Yes?
Why would light be refracted more if it's near?
Nearby. Alright. So here's your eye. Let's say here's your lens. Right? If something is nearby, it looks small, isn't it? So for light, the light will be refracted less. But if something is nearby, it looks big. So light needs to be refracted more. Look at this. It's bent more. But if it's far away, then light is refracted less. Because if something is far, it's small. But if something is nearby, it's big. So it needs to be refracted more so that it can enter the eye. Yeah, the way to refract, it means to bend. Yeah, so that it can enter, to reduce the image. Are we together? You understand now? Right? So accommodation for near vision people must know it. Right? First thing, what happens? Ciliary muscle contracts,
suspensory ligaments
slacken, tension on the lens decreases, lens becomes more convex, and then light is refracted more, and then image is focused on the retina. I think this is the last thing that you're going to do. Sorry, that story. Right, but you must know it. Near vision, what happens? Ciliary muscles. Good. Number 2? Slacken. Good. Number 3?
tension on the iris decreases.
Tension on the lens decreases. Huh? What else? Lens becomes
More convex.
and then light is refracted more. And then last one, image is focused on the retina. Image becomes focused on the retina. Right. Who can tell us for near vision? You're going to work with me. I've never, did I hear you? I heard. Yes. Yes. Near vision. Near vision. Oh yeah. Huh? What happened? Sorry? Ciliary muscle contracts. Yes. And then what else? You come after. Yeah, banking. Who can try that voluntarily so? Once, I've never heard your voice. Right. Want to try, bro? Okay, please try. Yeah. If you forgot, it's fine. Right. The first one, ciliary muscle.
They
Contract 1 mark. Huh?
and suspended cells there. The suspended ligaments slacken,
2 marks.
and the tension decreases.
Tension on the lens decreases. 3 marks.
The lens becomes more convex.
Lens becomes more convex.
the light is reflected more.
Good.
And the image is focused in the retina.
Image is focused in the retina. I want another one. Another one. Yes. We have not forgotten. Ciliary muscle contracts. Suspensory ligament slacken. Tension on the lens decreases. The lens becomes more convex. Light is refracted more. And the image is focused on the retina. Right? Who can look at the near one and tell us about the far? By the way, the opposite of slacken, it means taut. Yeah, you don't say tighten, it means taut. Yeah, it means taut. Right, who can look at the near one and tell us about the far? Yes. Okay, far vision. What happens in the far vision?
Ciliary muscle relax.
The ciliary muscle relax. Suspensor ligament becomes taut.
The tension of the lens increases.
The tension on the lens increases.
The lens becomes less convex.
The lens becomes less convex.
Less light is
Less light is refracted. Or light is refracted less.
a clear image is focused on.
And then a clear image is focused on the retina. Right? So people, I think, I don't know, Mr. Said, come.
Yeah, me. Okay, thank you so much, sir. It has been wonderful. Guys, clap the hand. Thank you so much. Because of time, so we're gonna do 2 questions. Just label this question number 10, question number 10, and also question number 12. Question number 10 and question number 12.